messages. Nothing but junk mail and overdue bills to keep me company. Seems nobody wants to hire a real private dick anymore, a professional like me. A guy who does the detective work nobody else wants to do. A guy who wears hats and walks around in a black and white world. I began contemplating a more profitable line of work, like politics.
We are the show you want to know. It's time to talk to you.
All right, folks, good afternoon and welcome to the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show here on AM 830 WCRN. I am Joe Mangiacotti, and you can join the conversation for the next hour at 508-871-7000. That's 508-871-7000. Our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388, 617-297-8388. Text that like you would anything else. Appears on the screen here in the studio in real time. I'm broadcasting from the Cameo studio, so the Cameo Cam is on. So not only does the station broadcast 24/7 on the TuneIn app like thousands of other radio stations do, we also can be played by telling Alexa to play WCRN. That will happen, and I do stream my show on the station's social media platforms of Facebook and our YouTube channel, as well as my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show, Mangi. So that's Facebook, X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and we do stream live to Rumble. So many ways to watch, many ways to listen. This show's turned into a podcast, so subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Whether that's Google Play or Spotify or iHeartRadio or Tuned In, whatever it is, you know the drill. Obviously, most of us either woke to or listen to very sad news out of Minneapolis today. You heard it at the top of the news, and probably have been listening or watching and following it since about 8:30 Central Time this morning. It had happened at the Annunciation Catholic Church and School. A lot of information still coming forward, so we will obviously be brought up to date on that in the continuous news coverage of this. The Annunciation Catholic Church, it's K through 8, South Minneapolis, first week of school, 8:27 Central Time, the first 911 call came in. At this point, 2 children have been killed in this. I think it's 8 and 10. There are about 6 children under care at the hospital right now, so we have children on the operating table. Look, they don't know much about the shooter yet, right? Suspect is dead, turned a gun on himself. It's unclear whether this animal went into the building. He fired through the, I want to make sure I look like something. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with the connection. I thought there was a hiccup there. Looks like he fired through the stained glass windows, actually. And they think he may not even enter the building. Again, those details will come out. What possessed him to do this? What's the motivation? He had a rifle. He had a pistol and a shotgun. Police believe he used all of these. Fortunately, I watched the presser with the chief of police and Mayor Fry there, or Frey, I think it is. And they didn't know at that time. Was he in legal possession of these guns? He's 20-something. I didn't see his identity released yet, just that he was early 20s. Drove a car there, left it there, opened fire. A lot of rounds were fired. They don't know yet. The sidewalk and outside area that this guy was at, they're checking for shells, trying to figure it out. Of course, the pistol doesn't eject a shell. But police are saying he is dead at the scene. No active threat continued after that. Witnesses in early reports say the gunman, he was dressed in black, armed with the rifle, shotgun, pistol, cargo butt pants. And he shot through the church windows into the sanctuary during Mass. So these kids were praying. They were praying. And the 8 and 10-year-old were killed in their seats at the pews. Tom Waltz already weighed in, of course, horrific act of violence. Mayor Jacob Frey, also horrific violence. Chief Brian O'Hara, in the city's emergency response, they were activated almost immediately. So we'll also see probably most of the regular suspects chime in with their normal stuff before all the facts are in, before they know what they're talking about. But the debate or the question about gun control in this, look, there are more guns in this country than there are people. And there are literally billions of rounds of ammunition. Plus, we have the Second Amendment. So we're not going to disarm our population because the Constitution doesn't allow it. But we do have regulation on this. My concern is, why do we not harden the security at the schools a little bit better? Now, in this case here, I mean, this guy didn't even get into the school. But in general, campuses are pretty open. And we've seen all too often have we had to do this. Watch on the news, talk on this show, other shows about some kind of school shooting or mass shooting. Why the schools all the time? Because they're one of the places where it's known that no one's armed, although that's been changing. That has been changing because of the amount of school shootings and mass shootings that has occurred. There are counties and there are communities in the country where the sheriffs, in Massachusetts, we don't think of the sheriffs as really law enforcement because the sheriff's department's more running the jails, civil warrants, some other things. But sheriff in other parts of the country are actually the top law enforcement officials in that county, because maybe the sheriff's department covers these small towns with no police departments, things like that. Point is, and there are communities in the country who have said, look, if you are licensed to carry, you can carry at school. So some communities, perpetrators or would-be perpetrators, wouldn't know who at the school is actually armed for defense among the teachers, janitors, staff, administrators, which I don't have a problem with. Part of being a responsible gun owner and law-abiding citizen, if you have a license here in Massachusetts, the LTC, we call it a license to carry a concealed weapon. See, let's put the emphasis on the concealed weapon. Most people who carry do not open carry, meaning they do not blatantly carry. There are states that have open carry, which means you can carry a handgun, but you literally have to openly carry it so everyone knows you're armed. That's what open carry is. A concealed license allows you to carry and conceal it. Not only can you conceal it, you're supposed to conceal it. And most people who do carry with the understanding they don't want to broadcast that they are. They wear it under their shirts, under their jackets, maybe in their ankle holster or something to that. There are countless holsters. There are shorts with built-in pockets and holsters for your concealed carry. And schools, I think, are a big target because they're soft targets. It's like the movie theaters too, right? Big signs when you go in the movie theater. Gun-free zone. You're not permitted to carry. Of course, those signs, those are policy for the company. They don't carry any weight of law. I suppose they could go through the community they live in and get it, but that's just the policy of the company, the theater company doing that. If you are licensed to carry, I don't believe you can stop you from carrying by just posting a sign. It's their policy. They may be able to ban you from the movie theater in the future. But if you're a law-abiding citizen, and see, that's the thing about gun control that always is the problem I have on this, because you've got these usually clueless politicians who, quite frankly, don't usually know what the hell they're talking about when it comes to weapons or ammunition or anything of that nature. They don't know the difference between a round or a clip or anything like that. Just listen to what they say sometimes. And that includes you, Governor Walz. That, so they don't know what they're talking about when they say these things. And they want a knee-jerk reaction for these stronger gun control laws. But here's the thing. These people who are not mentally stable in the first place and commit these shootings, do you think that the law is going to stop them? It didn't stop them. Usually most of these, 90% of these, right? I mean, they weren't legally allowed to have the gun in the first place, or there was a red flag issue to begin with, or whatever the case is. So the only people who actually pay attention to gun control laws are those who are law-abiding citizens. And we don't typically have a problem with the average person who's licensed to carry. And frankly, they're usually a member of the NRA or GOL or some other gun organization. And they probably belong to a gun club or a shooting range. And they practice good gun safety. They carry their weapons concealed. They go regularly to the range to practice how to handle their weapon. They store them properly. Those are the ones that actually follow the law, and you keep restricting them, which means you keep disarming or making it more difficult for the good citizen to be armed. And those are the people you want walking around society, because the bad guys pay no attention to those gun control laws. And as history has demonstrated over and over again, they have no problem getting hands on a weapon, whether they take them from a family member that does have the ability to have them, or they buy them off the street, or they steal them in robberies. Whatever the case is, it's not a problem for them. So what stops a bad guy with a gun is usually a good guy with a gun. I know that's cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason. Folks, we're going to have to take our first break here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show. Very sad day, of course, indeed. Don't forget, we're streaming on the TuneIn app, as well as I'm streaming on my social media platforms. You can join me on Facebook, X, LinkedIn profile, you know the drill, Rumble as well. And, of course, follow me at Joe Mangi Show and joemangishow.com. If you want to check that out. We'll take our first break here on the Monday edition on AM 830 WCRN Radio Central. We'll be back 2 minutes, 10 seconds. Stick with us, folks.
Are you looking for a holistic approach to your health? One that supports your body's natural ability to regulate, adapt, regenerate, and heal. Look no further. The Bioregulatory Medical Institute, BRMI, a nonprofit global organization dedicated to advancing the science and art of bioregulatory medicine, welcomes you to their free and rich library of resources. You'll find articles, podcasts, videos, and more at brmi.online. BRMI believes health freedom is a basic human right, honoring medical ethics and the innate intelligence of the human body. When your body is properly supported, it will thrive. If you're looking for the root cause of illness, physical, emotional, or spiritual, visit brmi.online. brmi.online.
We invite you to listen to the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast with Pastor Ray McMahon.
That I also believe the judgments of the Lord are true and righteous altogether. I believe that the fear of the Lord is clean, enduring forever. I believe Paul was right when he told Timothy.
That's Pastor Ray McMahon with the Jesus is Our Shepherd broadcast right here on this station.
Jesus is Our Shepherd airs every Sunday at noon right here on 830 WCRN.
Polar Park is the place to play, so treat yourself to a private suite at the best ballpark in AAA. Suite rentals are the best way to enjoy a fully catered and climate-controlled experience at the park. Whether you choose to watch the game from inside of the suite or out in your seats, it's the ultimate experience for a special occasion. Visit WooSox.com or call 500-8888 to reserve your suite today.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the second segment of the Wednesday afternoon edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN as I broadcast from the Cameo studios today. And of course, you can join us by watching and listening on my social media platforms at Joe Mangi Show. You can watch the show and listen to the show on Facebook, X, Twitch TV, LinkedIn profile, and Rumble TV, as well as the station's Facebook page. Join the conversation at 508-871-7000. Let's go to the phones. Mark is waiting patiently. Hey, Mark, what say you?
This Catholic school that was targeted by this lunatic.
Annunciation.
Lunatic. The guy's a lunatic, a post-mortem lunatic now. And so anyways, was this school located what I see on the news, kind of sketchy. Was it located within the city limits of Minneapolis?
Yes, South Minneapolis.
Yeah, within the city limits.
Yes.
Okay. Excuse me. What percentage of the schools will say K through 12 within the city limits of Minneapolis, Catholic or parochial schools, we'll say on a percentage basis, maybe 20%, maybe?
I would total guess, but okay.
Does that sound reasonable to you?
It's a reasonable guess, I would say, yeah.
Yeah, 20% would be parochial or Catholic schools.
Mm-hmm.
So it doesn't look, based on those percentages, it doesn't look like this was a random act. He wasn't just some, guy that just went out at random because he'd have if he did it randomly, he'd have an 8-2 chance of picking a school that wasn't Catholic because there's only 20% of the schools are Catholic. So that would indicate to me that this guy kind of targeted this, maybe because it was a Catholic church.
No, I agree. I think it was Catholic. I think it was targeted. I think this was purposely done because it was a Catholic school. No mistake about it. We don't know. Maybe the investigation will figure it out, but I think it was targeted.
Do we have a mug shot on this guy yet?
Nope. Not that I saw before I came on air.
We know none of his personal history has been released, like his name and where he's from.
At the time I came into the studio, Mark, I didn't have his identity. All I knew from all the press, what I read online, what I watched in press conferences with the mayor and the chief of police, he was in his 20s, male, single as far as they know, single male involved. He left a car at the scene, 3 weapons on him, many rounds fired. They don't think he even entered the building. They think he did it all through the windows into the pews. They didn't release, again, when I came into the studio, they hadn't released his name or picture yet. So they're going to find out who he is, find his home, because they'll go search the home as what. And they got to be careful with that because we know that can be booby trapped or there could be explosives. There were no explosives used except for a smoke type bomb type thing that he had deployed to cause just smoke, but not an explosion. Those are pretty much the facts of what I knew coming into studio.
But no mug shot, no personal history yet.
I haven't seen that yet. I'm sure by the end of today.
How long has it been now? About 3 hours?
8:30 their time, 9:30 our time. So yeah, it's been 4 hours.
No mug shot in this day and age, right? That's a little curious to me, but that's just my personal opinion. Have a good one, man.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Always appreciate it. Again, you can also join the conversation for the remainder of the hour, folks, at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000, and our text line is up and running as well. And don't forget, you can join me in studio by watching it as I stream live to the multiple platforms, X, Facebook, Rumble, and so forth. So The exact counts of the injured children versus the adults here, the number of rounds fired, not particularly known because a lot were fired. Again, watching the press conferences coming into the studio, the mayor, the chief, other officials there were counting the shells. A pistol doesn't eject a shell, but the shotgun, again, doesn't eject it either. But if you can eject and reload, so they got to figure out how many rounds were fired. They're still being reconciled on that. Figures were differing on different outlets. The weapons, multiple outlets are describing, again, the rifle, shotgun, pistol. That's been confirmed by almost every outlet that I saw. Some reports have named the two children because the notifications were done. 8 and 10-year-old. The next of kin had already been notified when the mayor and police chief came on. Now, the shooter identity described as a male in black, but the identity, motive, and criminal history have not officially been released. But to Mark's point, I've been in here for almost 45 minutes. We're actually closer to an hour. So a lot could have been released while I'm in studio. And if you know more information, you're welcome to share it. But this was a very sacred space. In schools, in addition to being a school, it's a Catholic school. It's a church in a school. And let's not forget, these children were literally praying in the pews of the church the first week of school. So this animal targeted children during a religious service. And why I said to Mark, I absolutely believe it was targeted. Because he didn't shoot the classroom up. He shot the church. It's a church and a school. And the kids were in the church. Annunciation Catholic Church and school. So he targeted, I should say, children praying in a church. Compounding trauma for the families and, of course, faith community. A lot of response, multi-agency response, and you're going to get that. Any mass shooting, you're going to get that, especially when it goes out. It's a church and a school. And those first responders, police and others, know we're dealing with all the victims, or most of the victims are possibly going to be children. And that's not going to sit well with any police officer. Local police, FBI, ATF, State Patrol, EMS, they contained the situation very quickly. Hospitals activated their mass casualty protocols. They trained for this. Unfortunately, all hospitals in large cities have to have those trauma centers, and they train for it. That's to make sure that you're guaranteed the highest percentage of survival when they get you there, if they can get you there alive. And most of the time, if they can get you, stabilize and get you there alive, you have in these mass trauma centers at these big hospitals, pretty good chance you're going to make it if they get you there. Authorities establish a reunification area in the school, I think is the gym or whatever, so that the parents who weren't there could actually get there and get the kids back to the parents as fast as possible. And of course, they're asking the public, if you don't have children there, if you have no reason to be there, please avoid it. You're just going to cause confusion and be in the way. And let the first responders, the police, do their work. Keep phone lines clear. Donate blood if you're eligible. It's always a good thing to do anyway. And you can always get the updates. I mean, tune into if you're in that area, I'm sure people can get it probably on the, going to get on the Minneapolis, St. Paul TV and radio outlets. Injury counts and ages may change, by the way, because a couple of these half a dozen kids that were brought to the hospital. A couple of them, 2 out of those 6, again, when I was walking in, or coming into the studio, they were on operating tables. So the day is going to be long and it's not over. We can expect briefings on victims, their identities. Of course, we'll learn about the ballistics, weapon types, shooter identity, and motive. I don't think the motive in a case like this is going to be there all that quick, to tell you the truth. Unless they do the search. Unless they find on the search history, you know, the hard drive, God knows. I mean, manifesto is written. Remember the transgender who shot up that school? They buried that. We never got to see that one. Wonder why on that one. Why is that one? When most cases like this, they can't get the manifesto and the motive out there fast enough. And then, of course, the question, guys, is any prior warning signs? Did they exist? And I would like to know. My curiosity is there. Is this animal, did he have a license to carry? Was he eligible to carry? Did he have a criminal record? Were there red flags involved in him? Should someone have intervened or reported him? Or is it a sign absolutely no indication? He was under the radar the whole time. And all of this will come out because there are people whose only job is to find this stuff out. But for the rest of us whose job that isn't, we need to emphasize our support for the survivors and the victim families here. What else can we do? Except maybe think about ways that we can harden some of these schools from being these soft targets. All too often we have to talk about this. Not this shooting, I'm talking about the mass shootings, the school shootings, the church shootings. It doesn't waver my position on the Second Amendment at all. Actually, if you didn't pick that up already, the law-abiding citizens who follow the law, handle their weapons correctly, store them correctly, go to the range on a regular basis. We should encourage them to carry because, and I know it's cliche, the best deterrent and stop a bad guy with the gun is the good guy with the gun, and that includes police officers and law enforcement. But we have to take our mid-show break here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on Radio Central, AM 830 WCRN. 508-871-7000 to join the conversation. That's 508-871-7000. We'll be back in 2 minutes and 10 seconds, folks. Stick with us.
Time now for the forecast from the Boston Independence Group Weather Center. Call Jerry Doherty today at 877-772-1776. Retirement is within reach.
I'm meteorologist Sherry Spear, and here's the latest Boston 25 weather on Radio 830 WCRN. Low and mid-70s today, partly to mostly cloudy with some spot showers coming through this afternoon. A lot of you will stay dry, but we could briefly see a downpour or a rumble of thunder. Tonight is going to be chilly with lows back in the 50s. Get set for that cool start tomorrow, and then temperatures back in the upper 70s for your Thursday afternoon plans with a mix of sun and clouds. I'm Sherry Spear, and you can hear Boston 25 live for the morning drive weekdays on AM 830 WCRN.
More live and local radio is next. Stay tuned to Radio Central, 830 WCRN.
Girton Graphics and Awards has been the name in custom apparel, t-shirts, embroidery, trophies, and awards. Whether you need custom t-shirts for your business, sports teams uniforms, thousands of personalized promotional products, or trophies that truly shine, Girton Graphics and Awards has you covered. Operating right here in Worcester, Girton Graphics and Awards takes pride in their craftsmanship, unbeatable prices, and top-notch service. Their reputation, often imitated, never equaled. Stop by the showroom on South Bridge Street next to Coney Island Hot Dogs and see why Girton Graphics and Awards has been the trusted choice for over 50 years. Call 508-754-0200, 508-754-0200. Visit GirtonGraphics.com. GUERTIN graphics.com, or swing by today. Girton Graphics and Awards. We're still the one.
All right, folks, welcome back here to the second half of the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show at AM 830 WCRN. You can join the conversation for the remainder of the hour at 508-871-7000, 508-871-7000. Lines are open and available. Update here. So I'm saying that it's 3 people who were killed in this attack on the Catholic school while the kids were praying. 17 injured in the first week of school, but it's 3. So the 8, the 10-year-old, the article I'm seeing here, the update online doesn't tell us who the 3rd victim was.
Joe, it's the gunman himself.
Oh, the gunman. Okay, that's what they're counting as.
Out of the 17 that were injured, 14 were children.
Yeah, that is too bad. Yeah, I suppose we would count him as one of the dead. I wasn't in my head, I'll be honest with you. I'm glad that he is. It saved the taxpayers of Minneapolis a great deal of harassment and their children and parents having to live through trial for years. All right, 508-871-7000. If you'd like to talk about that, you're welcome to join the conversation and do that. Some other things in the news I did want to talk about a little bit about this. There was a opinion piece in the New York Post yesterday about billions in nonprofit funding America's left. And it seems that we're constantly, right, whether it was USAID and all of the NGOs, and they dry up the money at USAID, and all of a sudden, the Democratic Party is lacking funds. They're at like 15 million. So the GOP is like at 85 million for the national parties. All kinds of organizations no longer can exist. Interesting how that works that way. But the article is alleging that the Biden administration officials attempted to channel, and tell me if you've heard this before, folks, unspent CHIPS Act funds and other grants, which amounts to billions, into newly formed nonprofits tied to Democratic insiders. And it's very interesting because isn't this the theme? Billions of dollars going out the door in the final days of the Biden administration, to the point that even Lee Sheldon, right, all these secretaries found $20 million thrown into a bank and just get out the door. And remember Project Veritas, one of their undercover reporters, had one of these low-level Biden administration workers talking about, oh, yeah, it was his words, I'm paraphrasing, it was like throwing gold bars off the Titanic. They pushed billions of dollars out of the federal funds into these organizations, and most of them, right, turns out they're newly formed. Stacey Abrams committee or whatever the hell it is that she had down there, they had what, $100 the year before, the $100 you needed to open the nonprofit, and then they get $20 billion from the federal government. If this wasn't the government, folks, we call this money laundering. People would be going to jail for this. So this article in the Post yesterday alleges the Biden administration's attempted to channel CHIPS Act funds and other grant monies to billions of dollars with a B into these newly formed Democratic or Democratic-tied nonprofits. A couple examples: a proposed $7 billion advance payment to a nonprofit called Nutcast. Nutcast was stopped by Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. He put a stop to a lot of this. Good for him. There was another $20 billion environmental justice scheme. This involved funding a nonprofit linked to Stacey Abrams. Remember that? $20 billion. For environmental justice. If you're not watching this streaming, I'm doing the air quotes. Because isn't that one of the most vague terms that we have? Environmental justice. What the hell is that? It's a scheme involving funding to go to a nonprofit, but this was rescinded by Lee Zeldin, the EPA chief. He saw this going on and he was able to pull it back and say, what is that? Guys, all of this, every red cent that when we talk about all of these billions and hundreds of millions of dollars, that's your money. All of the government money is tax money. Well, now it's a combination of tax and some of it tariff money, which according to the left is just a tax anyway, right? So let's talk about this. The governance of these agencies and the money they control and the oversight when political actors are directly taking public dollars via these very lightly regulated nonprofits rather than through transparent established channels. I forget what the topic was, but I know I had talked about this before. And I bear with me on this because I think it's not only a great idea, but I think it's something we should demand. I think the American checkbook should be online. Now, I don't mean online that you can go on and write yourself a check. I'm saying that it should be a visual only thing. That if you, because we found out because of Doge about how about all this money is coming out of this general fund that we've collected it. And in all of these checks or money transfers, they're not very well memoed, right? That they're writing, there's money's going out, money has been going out to businesses and NGOs for years, nobody questioning it. And it doesn't break down, and it's not tied to an account number so you can look up exactly what this is for, or an invoice number. Remember when Elon Musk talked about there was this one fund that was being just hit for renting out venues and casinos and all kinds of things and parties and activities. And all they did is say, going forward, you gotta upload the receipt. And then the secret on that was he said, nobody's checking the receipt. This is coming from Elon directly. He said, you could have loaded it. You could have like done the click and upload a picture of your dog because nobody was checking it. We just wanted to see if people were going to start loading up receipts to back this up. And as soon as they say load up a receipt, all of the drawdown on the account vanished. So maybe there should be on a government website that we can go on and see how much money is being sent out every day, what checks are being written, and to what. It's not their money, it's our money. It's taxpayer money. Now, I understand before I get people think they got me on my great idea. There would be the money that goes to the government and black projects or black book projects or defense. Just, yes, we'd have to deal $20 billion to the Air Force, $20 billion to the Navy, or whatever it is. We're not going to allow our enemies or intelligence agencies to go on and see that. But I'm talking about how much money is going out to other things every day. Shouldn't we be able to look that up and know what it is? Shouldn't there be a transparent, established channel for all this money to go out? Because I think that if we had that and we saw USAID sending just ridiculous amounts of money to the LGBT comic books and for some reason for drag performers in Guatemala or woke Disney and I forget where it was. You know, remember all that. Maybe we could have raised some concerns about it earlier. So this article argues that this funding strategy effectively turns these nonprofits into covert political branches of the Democratic Party, supporting protests, campaigns, political operatives under tax-exempt cover. Now, we know that a lot of these protesters are paid. You can go back and watch them, and you can see 4 o'clock. they start packing up and leaving because they're not paid after 4. And there has been, most of them, citizen journalists, because that's where you seem to be getting the true raw coverage of things, confronting these demonstrators who have admitted that they're professional agitators. I mean, there's a company, right? Crowd on Demand or whatever it is. So when a lot of the money got dried up, we saw a lot of these Democratic-leaning NGOs and organizations all of a sudden have no more money to operate. And the protests have become a little different now. The private money's still out there, right? Soros is still funding a lot of these protests. But the DOJ under this administration, they have the right idea. Just like you're going to fight crime, organized or otherwise, look at the money. Always follow the money. When these protesters have professionally made signs that all look alike, and they've got shirts, and they've got new things, right? You know, the stuff they use to protest. The question becomes, where did this come from? Who paid for that U-Haul truck? Who paid for this? Follow that and go after them. Because these people are fine throwing money to cause all of this problem and be above it, not connected to it. So we have to raise the awareness about how nonprofits' intended mission and driven status is to exploit for partisanship when all of this oversight is lacking, folks. Oversight. Ted, are you saying there's news breaking from the Post?
Yeah, the New York Post is saying that the guy's name is Robin Westman, early 20s. I haven't read all the way into it, but the possible manifesto shows psychotic obsession with other mass shooters. And, Mark just called me to tell me he's been declared as a trans person.
Okay. What is it with the trans community? And this isn't the first time we've seen that happen, but we've got to take our third and final break here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. So we'll take a quick break, folks. We'll come back on the other side. Lines open and available. What say you on these issues? 508-871-7000. 508-871-7000. Or our text line is up and running at 617-297-8388. Don't forget, we're streaming on my social media platforms. Back in 2 and 10, folks. Stick with us.
Looking for a fuel and food stop that truly stands out? Experience the Yatco difference. At Yatco, we're dedicated to bringing you the best customer service, the highest quality products, and a commitment to making your life on the go easier. Yatco has 15 convenient locations across central Massachusetts, and now our newest spot at 75 Quonsigamut Ave in Worcester. Yatco, where every stop keeps you going.
No one cares more about quality and keeping customers happy than Good as Gold coffee service. For over 45 years, Good as Gold has been privileged to be the preferred coffee supplier of some of the area's finest businesses. Isn't it time for you to make Good as Gold your coffee service? Whether you enjoy freshly roasted coffee beans, pre-measured packs, or single cup solutions, Good as Gold coffee has the perfect solution for every size business. Call Good as Gold Coffee today at 1-800-322-0439. goodasgold.com.
Have you noticed past the age of 30, your energy level, mood, skin, and body has changed and maybe not for the better? It may have to do with DHEA levels. DHEA is an important building block for more than 50 different hormones, and the body naturally produces DHEA. We make the most DHEA in our prime, between the ages of 18 and 25. DHEA levels decline each year in men and women after about age 30. Research has established that maintaining healthy DHEA levels may help us feel more energetic, help reduce belly fat, and help us to get a a better night's sleep. Often youthful levels of DHEA are tied to good health, while declining levels can contribute to an assortment of common health problems. Twist 25 is a high-quality DHEA supplement cream that absorbs easily into the skin, leaving no odor or oily residue. To learn more, visit www.twist25.com or call toll-free 888-489-4782. Look your best, feel your best with Twist 25. 888-489-4782.
All right, folks, welcome back for the fourth and final segment here on the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN. Just going into the break, like I said, all day we're going to get the updates on this as it comes in, and we'll be able to eventually learn everything. I guess, again, not confirmed. We got callers and producers saying New York Post is reporting that this happened to be a trans man in his early 20s. Again, all of this is going to come out as time goes on. Okay. So this billions of dollars out the door, folks. Check out that. I have it posted. Lutnick, Secretary Howard Lutnick, he voided $7.4 billion also to the semiconductor research funding agreement tied to nonprofits. All right, this is yesterday. Secretary Lutnick invalidated $7.4 billion grant agreement. When you add this, this is a lot of money, folks. A lot of money. And this just underscores the importance of keeping taxpayer funds under direct supervision, right? Not outsourced to outside entities with this almost non-existent transparency. Because once this money goes out the door, there's really no mechanism to see how it's being used by these NGOs and these nonprofit organizations. In the Government Corporation Control Act and the CHIPS and Science Act both limit how agencies may distribute public funds. So this is good news in the sense that Lutnick's on it, the Trump administration is on it, okay, because of the Doge people. And these allegations about this billions going out under the Biden administration before the end of the term here, gold bars off the Titanic, fit into the broader concerns about undisclosed political spending with these nonprofits, these structures, the dark money groups, especially the 501c4s. They can receive unlimited, undisclosed donations and influence elections without transparency. Not the 503s, the 503c4s. The 1630 Fund, a left-leaning dark money organization, has spent hundreds of millions of dollars in elections and ballot initiatives, and they're able to keep their donors hidden. Use this comparison to underscore the both sides of the aisle leverage of nonprofit vehicles to funnel money into public politics here, right? Often with no or limited transparency. So this New York Post piece, it's an opinion editorial, and your people are going to say New York Post, that's a conservative outlet. But they're pretty good, right? They broke the Hunter Biden laptop. And look what happened to one of the oldest publications in the country. So, good news that somebody's starting to pay attention to some of this money, guys. Now, President Trump also, he did this move, which is an unprecedented move, to remove one of the Federal Reserve Governor, Lisa Cook. What is it with the, I just think there's something, I don't know, maybe poetic. They went after Trump, right? You got the Letitia James thing and everything, going after Trump mortgage fraud. And Donald Trump has been developing property and financing billions of dollars in real estate for what, 4 decades plus? And he knows a little something about this. And they went after him for something, and I don't have the time to beat this to get. There was no victim. There was no harm. The lenders involved got the money back on time, actually early in some cases, with all the interest, and they would do it over and over again. So I don't know how you judge on me when there's actually no victim. But then you have, Letitia James and Schiff and all these people who were cheering this on at the same time committing mortgage fraud, wire fraud, mail fraud, because they were falsely claiming information on documents under the pains and penalty of perjury. And this Lisa Cook, and she's probably one that have the most, it's all alleged because she hasn't been convicted of anything here. But the director of Federal Housing Agency, FEFA, says that Lisa Cook filed mortgage applications for 2 different homes, one in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and another in Atlanta, Georgia. But she designated both of them as her primary residence. And this is, of course, to secure more favorable loan terms, such as lower interest rates, and the underwriting is easier, insurance. I have a very extensive real estate background. I broke this down to you guys before. Your primary financing a primary residence, insuring a primary residence is very different than a non-owner occupied residence or a second home. And it comes down to basically you've invested more in your primary residence. You will do what you have to do not to become homeless. The chances you're going to pay that mortgage. If it's a non-owner occupied piece of property that you're using to build wealth and cause maybe a cash flow, and things take a bad turn, those are the first things you let go. You don't let your primary. So obviously the underwriting is different. So when you lie and commit fraud by saying both can't be, one has to be. And these members of Congress are going to have that problem too. Because most of them they rent some rent, but others have bought properties in Maryland and DC area, Virginia, and they have a home in the district they're elected from. One particular California politician. Well, they both can't be your primary. One has to be. And as far as members of Congress, folks, if they don't list the home that they're run in, that they're elected from as their primary residence, they should be ineligible to stay in office. If they've moved out of the district, they can no longer represent that district. So if they start listing the Virginia home, the Maryland home, the DC home, whatever property they buy to be near the Capitol as their primary residence, should not they be removed from office? They no longer live in the district. So you can either rent in the DC area or treat it as a second home purchase and deal with that. And maybe we should say we will provide barracks of some type, lodging for members of Congress, so they don't have that problem. It's good enough for officers in the military. It's good enough for members of Congress. But Lisa Cook, at the same time, put these 2 mortgage applications that they were both primary residents. Can't be done. One has to be the other one, right? So the director, Bill Pult, he submitted a criminal referral to the DOJ asserting that Cook may have falsified these documents, represented the occupancy, which under federal and state law can be prosecuted as mortgage fraud in state lines across wire fraud. So as of now, there's no criminal charges or convictions against Cook. But the referral reflects allegations only and hasn't been convicted yet. But those are serious crimes, as Letitia James, right? Because she did this listing an out-of-state property as her primary residence. She identified her father as her husband for other documents. She misrepresented the number of units in a property in Brooklyn, I think. The point is, she lied on these documents, then signed them under the pains and penalties of perjury, which means she's committed fraud. So on Cook, the key legal question isn't just whether she committed mortgage fraud, it's whether such an accusation qualifies as cause for Trump removing her, right? Sufficient for removing her from the Federal Reserve Board.
Joe?
And that, yeah, Ted?
I'm curious. You know this firsthand from being in the business, and we could always call Douglas Rowan to confirm it because he says it all the time on his show. And if you attempt or commit financial fraud on a on a mortgage, it's a felony.
It is a felony. Absolutely.
I don't think we allow felons to operate as officers of the government.
Well, here's the thing. That's the question, because Trump took this unprecedented to remove her, and they're saying, well, she hasn't convicted or anything. But the allegation, as I was about to say here, is so serious, and it is a felony, that under the 1913 Federal Reserve Act, governors are appointed for a 14-year term and may only be removed from office for serious misconduct or malfeasance. And I would argue having this allegation alleged, but here's the thing. There's no allegation that she listed herself. It's fact that she is listed on both mortgage applications simultaneously as primary residence. That's fact. Hasn't been charged formally and convicted of that, but she's done that. And the Trump administration and the legal eagles on the Trump side are saying that's enough under the 1913 Federal Reserve Act to remove her, because the act of listing and committing that by listing both properties as her primary residence on a mortgage application and signing it and submitting it is malfeasance. It's misconduct. It doesn't say they have to be convicted. It says be removed from office for serious misconduct or malfeasance. And so this personal financial misrepresentation, particularly predating her appointment, I think should meet it. Some say no. But this wraps up the Wednesday edition of the Joe Mangiacotti Show on AM 830 WCRN, folks. Thank you for joining me. Back tomorrow afternoon at 1 p.m. Same bad time, same bad channel. Stick with me. Follow me at my social media at Joe Mangi Show, M-A-N-G-I, Joe Mangi Show. Again, back tomorrow. Have a fantastic rest of the day, folks. Go out.